Hi, welcome to Astro Babble. I'm Donna from Donna B Astrology.
And I'm Lynda from Scullywag Astrology.
And today we are going to do an episode on Uranus entering Gemini.
Mhm. Yes, Uranus is a planet that likes to kick up a bit of a storm. It's sudden and shocking and sometimes revolutionary. I find personally, I think for all of us, it's best if you can kind of roll with the changes. Sometimes it's a case of, I think, change will be thrust upon you. Donna and I are going to go through the houses. So if you know your ascendant sign, we will be able to give you some indications of what you can expect over the next 8 years on a very general level. But then we're also going to look at previous Uranus in Gemini periods and what sort of things happened then for what we call mundane events or world events.
And Uranus likes to be different. That's going to bring a lot of chaos to this part of the themes of this part of whatever house Gemini is for you. So that's where all this is originating from, because everything needs to change. And Uranus is one of the planets. It's said to go up on its side. It rotates on its side as opposed to spinning the way normal, as opposed to the way the Earth spins. The Earth spins on a northern south pole, and Uranus is said to spin on a side pole.
Yeah, it's very different. I suppose Earth west, east west would be the way it would be doing it, I suppose. It has about an 84-year cycle to go around the whole zodiac. So it's usually in a sign for about 8 years. But having said that, it tends to go in because it's such a slow moving planet. It enters into the new sign, then it retrogrades back into the old sign, and then it re enters the sign that it's in again. So, and same as when it's leaving, it'll enter the next sign after about 8 years, then it'll retrograde back in and then go back into the final sign. Uranus has been in Taurus for, the last 8 years. We're not quite done with it yet, but we're getting very close to it. So, people in fixed signs, so that's Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, this might be kind of the ending of some chaos. Maybe not quite yet, because it's going to go back into Taurus a little bit later. But it means that our mutable signs are going to be up to the plate. So that is Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Virgo.
Virgo.
So,
And when it enters your first house, it's definitely disruptive. If you don't know why you should follow your rising sign, Lynda and I did a video on the rising sign, why you should look at that sign for yourself.
I have set this for London in the UK because we're going to look at, well, we possibly won't look at the charts for those, but I was looking at charts just in case. And I thought, since we go back quite a few centuries, London was as good a place as any to set them for. So these dates might be a day off if you're in Australia or even the US, but these are the dates given, give or take. So we've got Uranus
Based in
moving into
England.
Gemini on the 7th of July. And if it's in the first house, if you're a Gemini ascendant, it's going to be in your first house. And Donna had Taurus in her first house, so she might like to talk about this.
I most certainly do. This first house, it can do a lot of abrupt changes, energy that's meant to make you either level up or change or just plain be chaotic. For myself, that's when I really got into astrology. It was right around 2018 that all of a sudden it kind of became a focal point of my daily habits. And so it also came with I had a huge weight loss, which was also that was a nice thing. Spent my next 2 years after that going to a doctor to make sure nothing was wrong. Nothing was. Things can be very disruptive. Things could change. You could change dramatically on how your thoughts and feelings are on religion, how you eat. You might become a vegan or vegetarian. You could really literally just do almost anything to change yourself, and it will be I think significant when it hits your first house, if this is going to be your first house. And Gemini, you're used to that duality too, so you might be having double of, like two boyfriends come back from from the past. So this is so just plan on doing that type of thing if you're a Gemini. This is going to be in your first house, and it could really send you reeling. Just be prepared for that, because it's meant to get you to do something different. It's Uranus wants you to look at life in a different way, and being in your first house is definitely different.
Yeah, when you just mentioned veganism at that time, my daughter has a Taurus ascendant, and she became a vegan round about then. So it was in her first house. And yes, it became, I wouldn't say a huge part of her personality, but I mean, it's certainly, yeah. I mean, if you're vegan, it's, you've got to make accommodations, like when you're going out to eat and that with others. And, it's interesting. And with, Uranus being in Taurus, which was all about the land and earth and all that. And Taurus is, often associated with food. It was really interesting to see just how more accepted and how many more people were becoming vegan or exploring those options, maybe not becoming a full vegan, but maybe doing like a meat-free Monday or something. But I know like another one of my kids was somewhat vegan, like they were, and then they went back to a normal diet, but they tried to eat, fairly keep away a lot from meat and animal products. And just the availability, well, in Australia at least, that was available for them was quite amazing to see the progression of the acceptance of the vegan lifestyle, and companies coming around and thinking, well, we can make a penny on this. And yeah, that's quite interesting. And if you are a Taurus ascendant, when Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to be in your second house. The second house is all about our income and finances, what supports us. So yeah, how you make money may change in some way. You may be just making money in a different way. You may have sudden, shocking changes in your financial situation. Uranus, a lot of people say it brings freedom. It may be kind of quite hard and shocking at the time. It may seem like you're on the back foot, but ultimately they say that it does bring some sort of freedom. So hopefully, if you are a Taurus ascendant, and Donna's looking like, oh my God, but hopefully it will bring some sort of freedom. And, it's a case of maybe you can do with less. Maybe the way that you earn that money is earned in a different fashion.
I'm also looking at Pluto trining that Uranus at the beginning of this stage. And Uranus is such a slow moving planet, it could be there for a couple of weeks, directly trining that Pluto. So that will be definitely something to watch, because Pluto is that major transformation and Uranus wants to disrupt. So those planets working together, if you're a Taurus in your second house, that's your house of finances. So things could get definitely disrupted. I remember when Mars was going through my second house, and it was definitely Marsy. So, with your, I'm not quite sure what to expect, but I do expect a change for sure the things that I value, the things that, how you make money, that's your financial house as well. Trining Pluto, that's going to be a major change. So I would just be prepared for, some kind of disruption.
Yeah.
It's going to be for the better. The universe wants you to succeed. But just be prepared for a disruption.
What I like at the very beginning when Uranus is first entering it, uh, Venus is only 2 degrees away to Gemini. And Venus is one of our benefic planets and it tends to bring good things. So hopefully this easing in, our dipping of our toes into Uranus and Gemini, hopefully for many it will be sweetened a little bit by having Venus there, which would be nice.
And so if you are an Aries rising, Uranus going into your third house is going to be a disruption to, possibly how you move about your community. This is short transportation. So this could be a different thing in cars. This could be something that's different with your family. You might have, if you're a younger Aries, you might be getting a brother or sister. This is also, your family. This is brothers and sisters, as well as cousins, aunts and uncles. This could all of these types of things can change. Your early education. Yeah, this is meant to move you forward. Uranus kind of pushes you to like level up, or not I want to say level up. It is kind of level up. It is to look at something in a different light, for sure.
Yeah, third house is also neighbors and our local area too. So, maybe you've always lived in a certain area and for whatever reason you're in a different locale and making new neighbors and a new local area and a new daily routine. So that could be interesting.
And keep in mind that this isn't going into Gemini. This is a duality sign. So you, instead of going only sticking with one coffee shop, you might go to two different shops, alternately throughout this time.
Yeah. And I mean, Gemini is a mutable air sign. And mutable means that it's adaptable, which is good because, we had Uranus in Taurus, which is a fixed sign. So some of those changes were kind of like, we really didn't want to change. Whereas Gemini is a lot more adaptable, a lot quicker on its feet. I think, generally speaking, this should be easier for a lot of people than with Uranus and Taurus. If you are a Pisces ascendant, Uranus in Gemini will be in your fourth house. Fourth house is our home and living situation. It's also our parents. I had Uranus in Aries in my fourth house a number of years ago. And I'd been living where I was living for a long time. And because I had my IC in the fourth house, and on the day that Uranus was on my IC, my house had all these people in it. They were replacing a ceiling that had become cracked. They were all these tradesmen in there. So that was quite a erratic type thing. And I thought that was interesting. And then maybe a few years later, the two houses, the house behind us and the house to the side of us, were sold. And then all these units went in. So there was building and a lot of disruption for a long time. And then round about the same time, the road, because we could only get out one way, and that road had to be regraded. So they kind of really took down all the stuff, but basically we couldn't get down the street for, I don't know, it might have been a week. So we had to park elsewhere and kind of walk in, sort of thing. And yeah, so that was rather interesting. I was determined to stay there, determined to stay there, determined to stay there, put up with all this stuff. And then finally the house got sold. So we had to move. And yeah. And that happened, I think, just as I think Uranus had moved into Taurus, but then it backtracked into Aries. And it was more or less At the time, it had that final backtrack into Aries, which was my 4th house, that, yep, we had to move. And you know what? Best thing we could have done. It's just, it was convenient. It was a pain, but it was convenient. It meant not having to move. Been there 16 years. And yeah,
Goodness.
so, and a mutual friend of ours had to move a lot when Uranus was in her 4th house. I mean, I think she said it was some huge amount, like I think in 30 times in, you know, 8 years. Hopefully not that much moving for most people. But yeah, or you could expect changes perhaps to do with your parents. It doesn't have to be anything bad, but, maybe they're suddenly doing things very differently. It could be that, they used to live across the country or in another country, and suddenly they're right around the corner from you, or vice versa. Real estate matters are also covered by the 4th house. And yeah, so you can expect changes to do with family, most particularly your parents, your living situation, or real estate matters.
And if you are an Aquarius rising, Uranus is going to be in your 5th house. And the 5th house is your children. It's the things you create and the things you do for fun. So you might find your children are being disruptive in your world at this moment. This could also mean that you are changing what you do for fun, is as opposed to camping all the time. You might just go to all the car shows in the area, or just things like that. This will be definitely a disruption of what you do for fun. And like I've been saying, this is in Gemini, so this is going to have a different flavor from that you see a progression in the fixed signs where it was just slow and steady movement. This could be quite changeable.
Yeah, I've just had Uranus in Taurus in my 5th house, and huge changes with children. My children have gone through very significant changes, and just thinking about it, 5th house activities, which can include socializing and what you do for fun, like last few years been going out to trivia, once a week or so. It's not anything huge or significant, but it's a nice change, so whereas before hadn't done anything like that for years. So yeah.
And Venus is right there. That's her house of joy. So she's going to be very happy there. She's going to definitely, for you Aquarius people, this should be very beneficial. And if you are a Capricorn rising, this Uranus is going to be in your 6th house. And the 6th house has a lot to do with how you do service to your community. It also is the house of illness, and where you might start getting sick or start feeling, ill. Uh, with Uranus in there, I would make sure that you, if anything comes on suddenly, sure you would want to go get it checked out. I would think that would be. I'm not a doctor. I can't advise you to go in and see a doctor, but I would, with Uranus in your 6th house. This is so those things that come up quickly, go get it checked out. But you also might have, like, if you always had a dog, you might have a cat. If you always had, if you've always, if you had like always just one dog, your dog might have puppies or something. It's something that comes out of the blue at you with Uranus. It's something that you really didn't expect to see coming. Yet here you are with the cat.
Yeah. Uranus is going to be moving into my 6th house. So as Donna said, anything illness related needs to be definitely looked at. But yeah, we've always been cat people. We had dogs when I was a kid, but our old cat died last year at the grand old age of 20. And yeah, it's kind of like, I really don't want another pet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with another one sometime over the next 10 years. I mean, I love animals, but they are it's a lot of responsibility in a lot of ways. But yes, we'll see.
Yeah, we just got a new pet. Our dog had passed away, and then our cat had passed away, and then we were we were petless for a while, and pets in your life can be definitely disruptive. They can
Mm,
disrupt your schedule, disrupt your plans to go anywhere, sure that you're not out all night.
yeah.
So, anyway, if you are a Sagittarius rising, this will be going into your seventh house, and Uranus in your seventh house is going to bring you relationships, or could possibly bring you relationships that you are not familiar with. So, if you might have to change your doctor, because that's the seventh house as well. Those one-on-one relationships where if you make an appointment and somebody writes your name down to meet with you at a specific time, that is a relationship, a one-on-one relationship. So, if whether it's changing a doctor or changing a romantic interest, this could be something that you do differently. You might go to another country with a significant other. This is going to be disruptive. It's meant to make you look at relationships in a different way. I know how Uranus has crept into my romantic life is like we've always done a certain thing, and then all of a sudden we're doing there was a construction on the road and we had to go a different way. And that Uranus is there to make you look at things in a different way and be very disruptive. Not necessarily in a bad way. It could be in a bad way, but most likely it like what had happened with me. What I was referring to is we were going on a different road and ended up driving right by a huge garden. And when we got out of the car, there were people proposing and people getting married. And I mean, just like these different things that were romantic, but it was a different way. And we certainly weren't expecting it. It was just a detour that we had gone on. So those are the things that you can look forward to if you are a Sagittarius rising.
And if you're a Scorpio rising, this Uranus moving into Gemini is going to be happening in your eighth house. The eighth house is the house of shared finances and resources. It includes things like taxation, insurances, and inheritances. So for some, this could be, you know, you find out that, some long distant relative that you weren't even aware of leaves you some money. It's also loans and debts. So maybe there's a need for loans or debts. Surprises, they can be shocking, but something's different happening with your relationship with other people and their money, or other organizations and their money, like banks, insurance companies, the tax department. So, yeah, just things are a little bit in flux. This is for an 8-year period. So, this is how you deal with joint and shared finances and resources. And it could be your partner. It's money, the way that your partner, whether that's a business or a romantic partner, deals with their finances too. So, hmm.
Right. And with other people's money, this might give you some freedom. Uranus is about getting that independence and freedom. So this might be, if you are a Scorpio rising, this might offer a way for financial freedom as well. And then with Libra as your rising sign, and Uranus will be in your ninth house. And the ninth house is the house of what we do with upper education, as well as publishing, the law, any legal issues, um, your religion. You might change your religion. You might change. This is you're looking for independence. You're looking to bust out of the norm. So when you're a Libra rising, you could have very profound changes within your spirituality, that type of thing, religion. And you're looking for, this is a dual sign, so we're looking for things changed very often. You might you I can't even put up a scenario. But if there's like one religion that you might go to that might be very similar to another, and you switch to that one, you could definitely could do some of that type of thing if you feel like it's going to give you that expression of independence and your own sense of self. Uranus wants you to level up and go and do things in a different way so that you can change and grow. So in the ninth house, that's your higher education house. You might go to college, go back to college if had if there was something that you wanted to go into. So that'll be the types of things. And you've got Venus right there. So she still is going to be a benefic that first part of when Uranus enters it. So don't let it get too scary, but it's uh it's definitely going, it's still got that trine to Pluto. So you're gonna have that transformational change. Pluto can be a little abrupt, and Venus can be, or not Venus, but Uranus can be a little abrupt. So hold
Yeah.
on. It'll be fun.
Excuse me. Yeah, I could see maybe some people breaking away from a religion at this time. For others, looking for knowledge or connection or belief through some other type of religion. Also, the house of foreigners and foreign places. So maybe you're dealing with somebody or other people from another country or another culture during this 8-year period too. Maybe they become quite significant in your life. If you are a Virgo ascendant, Uranus moving into Gemini is going to be happening in your 10th house, which is often associated with our career, but it's also our public reputation. It's a very, very visible house. So you might just suddenly become very different to how people thought they knew you. If you've always been quite shy and retiring, maybe you're suddenly out belting karaoke, every other week, or, maybe you decide you want to be an actor in a local, theatre group, or maybe there's a change in career. Maybe you were always into high finance and all this, and suddenly you change to, I don't know, a charity group or a non-profit or something. It can also relate to authority figures. So this could be a boss or some sort of authority figure being very different or unusual. So, yeah, but it's a very public house. It's a house of fame and infamy. So you might be known for being a little bit of an oddball because Uranus is quite often considered a little bit eccentric. So, yeah, it could be interesting. And, like Donna's been mentioning, Gemini is a sign of duality. Maybe, there's two sides to you. There's a staid side and a more wild side. Maybe you've got to be very respectable in business, but outside of business, you let your hair down a bit more. So it could be a fun time.
Right. You could be a PTA mom, and then
On OnlyFans.
camper at night. Anyways, if you are a Leo rising, this is when Uranus goes into your 11th house. The 11th house is all about groups and associations. So look for changes with the people that you hang around with. This will be changes in those groups. It's also changes in your hopes and dreams. So this is meant to level you up. The Venus is right there to help you with this. It's Venus is right there to help all of us. So it's not just for Leos. But you want that benefic planet in that house that's going to be helpful. And your associations and things, like if you were always played softball every year, you might try bowling this year or for the next 7 years and just change that. Or you might do, softball and bowling. It's a duality house. So or a duality sign. So you might do things that are double of.
The 11th house is also benefactors, so somebody that can help you. So, maybe you get a new mentor or something, meet somebody that can help you with your career or something similar. That could be a nice lucky break and something that really helps propel you forward. And if you're a Cancer ascendant, Uranus moving into Gemini means it's going to be in your 12th house, which is one of the more difficult houses. It is the house of our undoing. It does tend to be associated with things like addictions or self-defeating habits. It's also places of seclusion or confinement, such as prisons, hospitals, or it can be like monasteries, spiritual retreats. So maybe there's something surprising, shocking, unusual to do with those matters. If you have been battling addictions, maybe this is a time where, something has to happen. Maybe there's something that sets you on a different path. Maybe if you work for hospitals or prisons, there's something significant that happens that changes the path to do with that. Maybe you've always been working behind the scenes, or actually probably the other way. If you've always been kind of in the spotlight, maybe you're working more behind the scenes these days. Yeah, so it's interesting. Changes to do with secret and hidden matters, places of confinement or isolation. So, Uranus moves into Gemini on the 7th of July, 2025. Then on the 8th of November, 2025, it re-enters Taurus. It retrograde backs into there. And then from the 26th of April, 2026, it will go into Gemini again. So, yes, that will be very interesting.
And it'll stay there for 7 or 8 years.
Yes. I should have found the end dates, but I haven't. So 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there. And then it wobbles back and forth because it's such a slow-moving planet anyway. So
Yeah. And Donna and I were going to discuss some periods in history that have also been Uranus and Gemini, because part of astrology is looking back at previous periods to see what happened during those times. It's a way of trying to estimate or have a good guess at what we might experience the next time that happens. For the United States, it can be quite interesting. In one of the periods, like you had your War of Independence in 1776. Well, that wasn't the whole war. That's when your declaration was signed.
right.
That happened during a Uranus and Gemini period. But then the next Gemini in next Uranus in Gemini period was during the Civil War. So, yeah. But we did have one after that, and that was from 1941 to 1949, which I thought was really interesting because we had World War II from 1939 to 1945, but America didn't enter till after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which I think was the 6th. Was it the 6th of December, 41, or the 7th?
It was December 7th.
7th of December. Yes. Which is interesting because we had, for that time period, Uranus entered Gemini on the 8th of August, 1941. Then it dipped back into Taurus on the 5th of October, 1941. And then it came back into Gemini on the 15th of May, 1942. So while it had dipped back into Taurus, you came into the war. Yeah, so that was rather interesting. and I did a quick Google, quick Google of events,
Which is
and
very Uranian. You want, because we're Uranus is moving into an air sign at the same time that AI is really coming up. This is our backgrounds that this is very Uranian for our backgrounds. Doing something different. It's meant to level you up. It's meant to be kind of out of this world. It's like, where did that come from? Where did that idea come from? So those are, you might be saying that a lot, but yeah, with when Uranus is going into an air sign, it's Uranus is technology, as in astrology. One of the significators of Uranus is technology. And so Uranus, or AI, is now coming into our world, and I must kind of need to jump on. So she Googled, just putting in, I'll let you explain it.
yeah, I just Google the dates, world events from this date to that date, and of course Google comes up with the AI explanations. I just want to preface this by saying I haven't double checked all these, and while AI can be really great for picking up that information, sometimes it kind of isn't exactly right. And me and Donna were talking about this earlier in the year. It was somebody used AI to generate the top 15 summer reading list, and a lot of newspapers, including, where was it? One in Chicago. Some newspapers around the country, including the Chicago Sun-Times and at least one edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer, have published a syndicated summer book list that includes made-up books by famous authors. And basically, where was it? I think only 5 of the 15 titles on the list are real. Basically, AI said, I'm just going to wing it. And whoever was using it didn't double check. And yeah, so as I say that, we haven't checked these. So if you want to come at us in the comments and say this didn't happen, that didn't happen, that would be great. Great to have the information. But yeah, I've just Googled these on the fly, very busy. And yeah, but I think it should give us a good overview. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that it's correct.
Yes, for people who aren't familiar with AI, you can use it for information gathering. You can also use it for art. I used it for art for my website, on the page when I was trying to get, how do you get a picture of astrology, shamanic work, and crystals, and there was literally no artwork on the internet to have all that. So, but the woman that was on the picture had like 6 toes. So you have to check those things. AI is really good to use it, but you do need to check for accuracy. Yeah, I just want to preface that, like, underline it and underscore it a gazillion times.
And I think that's something that they're going to be really worried about. This is something that's going to be very interesting too, coming up with the deep fakes. Like, some of the technology is so good that they could take you and have you doing all sorts of weird things. And how do people know that, you're saying it's AI, and, and I mean, like, nobody cares what we do, but I mean, if you're a world leader, that could be quite troublesome. So yeah, telling
Yes.
truth from fiction is going to be a lot harder. So, and that's interesting because, I mean, Mercury, which rules Gemini, is a trickster, loves all that sort of stuff. So yeah. And I mean, AI being used for scams, and that's going to shoot up massively, I imagine. But anyway, we thought we'd go through what AI told us what was happening in the different dates. So from the period 1941 to 1949, which is when it was last in Gemini, was dominated by World War II and its aftermath, including the beginning of the Cold War. The war in Europe ended in 1945 with the defeat of Germany and Japan. The post-war era saw the division of Europe, the rise of new global powers, the emergence of new technologies, and the beginnings of decolonization.
I'll do the next one. The period from 1858 to 1866 was marked by significant global events, including the end of the Indian Rebellion, the rise of the Second French Empire, the American Civil War, and the Austro-Prussian War. These events reshaped political landscapes, fueled nationalist movements, and showcased the impact of industrialization. And that was from 1858 to 1866.
Yeah, very interesting. The period before that was from 1774 to 1782, was marked by the American Revolutionary War and significant global events. The American colonies fought for independence from British rule, culminating in the formation of the United States of America. Simultaneously, other conflicts and colonial expansion continued around the world.
And the period from 1690 to 1698 was marked by the 9 Years' War from 1688 to 1697, a major European conflict involving France against a Grand Alliance. This war, also known as King William's War in North America, saw fighting spread to colonial possessions. Other significant events include the Glorious Revolution in England, the Darien Scheme in Scotland, and various events in Iran, India, and the Ottoman Empire.
Nice. The period from 1606 to 1614 saw significant developments across the globe, including the establishment of the first permanent English settlement in North America at Jamestown in 1607, the end of the long Turkish War, 1606, and the beginning of the time of troubles in Russia. Other notable events include the exploration of the New England coast by by Bartholomew Gosnold, 1602, and the founding of Quebec by Samuel de Champlain, 1608, and the assassination of the French King Henry IV, 1610.
Okay. From 1523 to 1530 saw the rise of Protestantism, the consolidation of the Holy Roman Empire under Charles V, and major conflicts in Europe and the Americas. Key events include the start of the Reformation in Switzerland, the rise of the Ottoman Empire under Sultan Magnificent, the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire, and the beginning of the English Reformation.
The period from 1439 to 1447 in world history saw significant developments in Europe, particularly in the context of the 100 Years' War, the Italian Renaissance, and religious conflicts. The 100 Years' War continued with France regaining territory and negotiating a truce, while the Italian city-states were consolidating their power and artistic advancements were flourishing. Religious tensions were also evident, with the Council of Florence attempting to reconcile the Eastern and Western churches, and the Hussite movement continuing to challenge the Catholic Church.
And from 1355 to 1363, the European experienced significant events like the continuation of the 100 Years' War with battles such as Poitiers and the aftermath of the Black Death. In the Byzantine Empire, the Ottomans began their expansion into Europe. Meanwhile, in China, a major naval battle, the Battle of Lake Poyang, took.
From 1271 to 1279, the Mongol Empire under Kublai Khan saw the establishment of the Yuan dynasty in China and the final conquest of the Song dynasty. In 1271, Kublai Khan proclaimed that the Yuan dynasty with its capital in modern-day Beijing. By 1279, the last resistance from the Song dynasty was overcome, completing the Mongol unification of China.
And from 1188 to 1195, world history saw significant events, including the Third Crusade, the fall of Jerusalem, the rise of the Kamakura Shogunate in Japan. The period also included political maneuvering in Europe with Henry II of England's death and Richard I's ascension, along with Philip II of France's consolidation of power.
From 1104 to 1112, the First Crusade continued to shape the political landscape of the Levant, with the establishment and expansion of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Key events included the capture of Acre, Beirut, and Sidon by Baldwin I, as well as the foundation of the Knights Hospitaller and the ongoing conflicts between Crusader states and the Muslim neighbours. Additionally, the early 12th century saw the rise of the Knights Templar and the establishment of alliances like the Pactum Warmund.
Okay, and then from 1020 to 1028 in world history saw significant developments in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. In Asia, the Chola dynasty reached its peak in naval power, controlling parts of Southeast Asia, while the Ghanavid Empire began its expansion into India. In Europe, the High Middle Ages were underway, marked by the rise of the Seljuk Turks in Western Asia and the beginning of the Crusades. In the Americas, various indigenous civilizations were flourishing through specific details of this, though specific details of this narrow time frame are less readily available in broad historical overviews.
Between 936 and 944, Otto I became the King of Germany and consolidated his power, while the Battle of Brunanburh in 937 saw a major conflict in England between Aethelstan and a coalition of his enemies. Otto's appointment of Conrad the Red as Duke of Lorraine in 944 also marked a significant moment in his reign.
Between 853 and 860, the world saw significant events, including the siege of Constantinople by the Viking in Europe, and political shifts within the Abbasid Caliphate.
The years 769 to 776 CE saw significant events in Europe, including the expansion of Charlemagne's influence and conflicts in Italy. In 774, Charlemagne conquered the Lombard Kingdom of Italy, solidifying Frankish power in the region. Meanwhile, in the Byzantine Empire, Empress Irene ruled as regent, navigating complex political situations.
And then we have from 685 to 693, the Islamic world saw the Umayyad Caliphate consolidate its power under Abd al-Malik, ending the Second Civil War and establishing a more unified political authority. This period also witnessed the introduction of a new Islamic currency, the dinar, replacing the Byzantine solidus in some regions. In Byzantine history, the reign of Justinian II saw both successes and challenges, including conflict with the Bulgars and internal strife.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting having a look back. We maybe went back a little bit too far, but there you go. I thought it was really interesting, a lot of stuff going on with Jerusalem and the Crusades and all that. So given what's going on in Gaza and a lot of stuff going on over there at the moment, it's quite interesting. But, you know, just shows you that there's always been tensions over there too. Well, for a very, very long time.
Constantinople was pretty big for it to fall. And so when you have a major city that's fallen during Uranus in Gemini, that could definitely, you know, happen again. It's certainly possible. Gemini is you know, Uranus is meant to change up things that aren't working, and you know, we might see some definitely significant changes. I'm not sure where those are going to occur. We don't have crystal balls that tell us that. But, you know, Uranus is meant to make you stretch your comfort zone. So be prepared to, you know, it's not going to if you always were, it's not gonna like take you out of poverty, although it could. And but it's not a very significant change. It's just meant to stretch you just a little bit more to, this side than, than that. It's just meant to stretch you so that you are comfortable and you can grow. That's what Uranus is trying to do. It's meant to get you to change, and and when it goes into the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs, it's you can see that progression. And right now, a mutable sign means there's going to be like lots of or many things that are changing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we just kind of expressed when we were reading all that history with those regime changes, those big things that were leaders. Like, we all know Charlemagne, we all know Constantinople, we all know, the Americas and the Aztecs. So those things really, those are major parts of our world history, and those are changing.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting too with like the founding of Jamestown, things like that. People maybe leaving countries because of religious or political reasons, and yeah, that's interesting. And because Mercury, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so there's kind of a mercurial flavor to Uranus in that sign. Um, things to do with trade and commerce. Thought it was very interesting. They were talking about the change of one of the currencies in one of those instances. I can't remember where exactly. But yes, very interesting. The way we learn. It'd be very interesting to go back and look for those type of events specifically, but it takes a long time. When I did a Uranus and Taurus event and spent probably weeks doing it, but I had that fixed, determined Taurus activity to do it. And Gemini was like, yeah, no, yeah,
We're going to change all that.
no, no. Who has time for that? So yes. Anyway, Donna, where can people find you, and what services are you offering?
You can find me at donnabastrology.com. That's my website, and I have contact information there. As I was alluding to earlier, I do a little bit of medical astrology, electional, natal readings for sure. Those are very interesting. And I also work with crystals for an alternative way of healing, shamanic work, again, as an alternative way of healing. I'm very much trying to get people to understand that you don't want to discount your doctors. That's for sure. That's number one thing. But you can also, and there are ways of assisting that healing that your doctor wants you to do. And that's where crystals and shamanic healing come in, is that it helps you meet your doctor. The doctor can't just give you medicine and you're supposed to, take it, and then your part's done. Your part starts when you start feeling ill. You need to be proactive on your own health. And that's why I have gone into, when I can look at a medical, but I can not a medical chart, when I can look at a natal chart and the other charts that accompany that, like a solar return chart, I can look at those and see if there's going to be health issues. Hopefully you have already seen your doctor about those health issues, but if you haven't, this gives you insight into medical issues. And the healing that I try to do is meant as alternative, in a way of, by when I say alternative, is with your doctor's instructions. This is also support that healing that you're trying to accomplish. I work with crystals and shamanic healing for those things. And Lynda, what are you doing? Where can people get a hold of you?
I'm at Scallywag Astrology. That's astrology.scallywag.com. I'm not taking any bookings at the moment, but if you go to the website, there are computer generated reports that you can order if you so wish. And yeah. So thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful. And yeah, good luck with Uranus and Gemini.
I'm looking forward to it.